name's Melissa, and I'm with the Division of Extended Learning. And with us tonight, we have three of our absolute experts on campus who I always rely on. Jenny Hoffman-Smith. I'm going to screw this up, Jenny. She is the Associate Director of Financial Aid.
Yep, Associate Director of Financial Aid. Thank you so much.
All right. You're welcome. And then Lisa Vinciguerra, who is the Director of Student Accounts. Did I get that right, Lisa?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Lauren, you're going to have to help me out here. What's your title?
One of the Assistant Directors of Financial Aid.
Okay, Lauren Porter, one of the Assistant Directors of Financial Aid. And these are the people that I go to whenever I have questions about financial aid, fundable courses, and billing issues.
But I can start us off. So thank you so much, Melissa, for the introductions. So I am, again, the Associate Director of Financial Aid, and we love to take this opportunity every semester and just kind of meet with non-traditional students and online students that are interested in learning more about what we do in our department in the financial aid office. And so primarily what we do is award your aid, right? So you fill out your FAFSA form. If you're a New York State student, you fill out your TAP application, and then we receive that data at the campus level and we process it for you. We put together your financial aid package, and we work very closely with our partners in the student accounts office to ensure that that money gets applied toward your account. And then if you have excess monies, that you receive that refund. So then you can use that to fund your off-campus expenses, to fund, your travel, your books and supplies, all of your educational expenses that aren't directly related to your billable items that you pay to SUNY Oswego. So again, in the financial aid office, we kind of guide you through that process. If you ever need help with your FAFSA application, with your TAP application, we're here to assist. And then we also are compliance experts in terms of how the monies can be used in what way. So essentially the Department of Education for your federal student aid determines, okay, the student is eligible for XYZ in federal programs. Here is how the money can be applied in what way. So we kind of act as, along with, we act as stewards of the federal and state monies to ensure that the funds are being applied properly toward your account. So I will, at this point, I'll kind of turn it over to Lisa so she can talk a little bit about what her office does. And then Lauren, specifically here tonight, is going to talk about course applicability and what that looks like for students that might be taking courses outside of their major, what's allowed, what's not allowed, and some common scenarios that we see with students, kind of some like pitfalls and how to avoid them. And then also, if you have a situation that's kind of outside of the norm, how we can work with you to ensure that your classes do get funded. Hi, Cece. How are you today? Cece and I have met before in a couple of other different webinars.
Yeah, it looks like her audio is still connecting. So I'm gonna just start off with, at the student accounts office, we're the office that you go to if you need help with your billing, once your aid is applied, when your refund might be available to you if you're getting one, what Bank Mobile is, and how having an account there will get you your refund quicker. We are the office that you come to talk about your state aid when Lauren gets into that, aidable classes, unaidable classes. She deals with federal, we deal with the state ones, TAP and Excelsior, and other New York State grants that they get, WTC, World Trade Center, Merit, which is a military one. So anything that comes through the state of New York will be our office as far as going over the classes. Like if you're registering for a class and you see that it says this class is not aidable and it's, state funding, you're going to talk to student accounts. We deal with your billing. holds if you have them because you have a balance. But we're here to help you no matter what. A lot of times students come in our office and their questions relate to financial aid. So a lot of times we answer as many as we can without overstepping. And so that we don't have to bounce the student around from one office to the other. If it's easy enough about financial aid, we'll answer it if we can. But we want you to come to us if you're about your bill. Please don't be afraid to ask questions. I encourage students all the time. Please ask questions about your bill. It's your right. It's your bill. If you have a question about a fee, about anything, please call us. We welcome it. Have a nice conversation, discuss things. I mean, it's not an acrimonious relationship. We want to have a good relationship with the students, and we want you to ask questions, and you're not bothering us. Some students feel like they're bothering us. I don't ever want you to feel like you're bothering us. You're not. That's our job, and we enjoy it. So, please come to us. So when Lauren talks about we call it in our office SOT, which is student outcome tracking. What do you guys call it in financial aid a lot of times?
Student outcome tracking, or sometimes course program of study.
Thank you. Course program of study. So, if you want to talk about those, just a reminder, we do the state ones, and Lauren and financial aid does the federal ones. So, your name looks familiar. I probably talked to you on the phone before, so you're probably not afraid to call, because I recognize that, which is good. I love it. I love that our students call us. So, do you want to just jump? Do you have any questions for us about that generically? And then Lauren can break into her stuff. There'll be more questions about that when she gets talking about it. Do you have
I had one more thing to add to Connor.
Sure.
after you have your questions. I forgot to talk about professional judgment, and that's really important.
One of the questions I do have is, so I guess this might be too specific, Parent Plus loans. So I was under the impression that my parents could take out up to a certain amount of money. And is that applied after I accept it? Or obviously it is, but so it still says on for instance, my bill, that I would have to take out federal loans, and that the Parent Plus loan would not cover as much as I was expecting it to. Is that subject to change at all?
I think that's not too generic a question. It's it's on the edge of it, but that's okay. I think we're going to have to follow up, Connor, so we can look at your account, but I think it's a question that we can answer generically. So the way that we package Parent Plus loans at SUNY Oswego is to add a Parent Plus offer for dependent students, and after all of your federal and state financial aid and scholarships too that you're eligible for, we add that in up to your total cost of attendance. Now, there are situations where we either have you budgeted or packaged incorrectly based on the information that's on the FAFSA. So for example, if we based on the information that we have incorrectly assume that you're living at home, you have a lower cost of attendance than if you're actually living in your own apartment, or if you're living on campus. So in that situation, we could, for example, update your cost of attendance and then increase the amount of Parent Plus loan that your parent could borrow. Another example would be, a student that's living off campus, but maybe their rent is more expensive than what we have student budgets set up for based on the average that a SUNY Oswego student would pay. And in that situation, what you would request is called a cost of attendance professional judgment. And so we would collect documentation from you. So we see, okay, Connor's rent is X amount of dollars. Maybe he has dietary restrictions that cause him to spend more in food than, what a quote unquote normal Oswego student would pay. or maybe your, utilities are super high for whatever reason. So really what we would do in that situation is kind of collect some documentation, and then we would update your cost of attendance and update the Parent Plus loan offer for you. Another common example would be maybe a student that's living in a single room that has a full meal plan, because we base cost of attendance on double room price. So there are a lot of situations where a student's cost of attendance that we initially start with isn't necessarily representative of what a student is actually paying. And so you would partner with us to review the components that we're including in the cost of attendance, and then we can discuss where the discrepancies are and what documentation you can provide to us, so we can kind of get you on the right track. Because really there shouldn't be a situation where if your parent wants to take out the Parent Plus loan to cover all of your educational costs, there shouldn't be a situation where they can't do that, especially if you're living on campus and these are billable costs to the university. So we can, Connor, if you'd like, we can connect offline about that, and then we can, we'll just review your specific situation, see what's going on with that. But it kind of led me to professional judgment. And so something that I wanted to bring up too is that as financial aid advisors, we have the authority to use what's called professional judgment. And of course, my dogs are going crazy in the back, so I'm sorry. But we can use professional judgment to not only update the components of the cost of attendance, but remember, your FAFSA application is requesting income data from 2 years prior. So there are a lot of situations where the income for yourself and for your family might not be the same as what it was in 2022. It might be less. Those are the cases that we want to discuss with you. We don't want to know if now your parent made more in 2024 than what you reported on the FAFSA for 2022. But if you made less, we do want to know about it, because we can update the FAFSA to what your parent earned for tax year 2024, which could impact your eligibility for federal grant funding. And obviously we're in your corner. We want to make sure that you get the maximum amount of aid that you qualify for. But you have to self-report, because otherwise, we don't know what we don't know. We don't reach out to, families unless they're self-reporting to us that they have a loss or change of income. So it is important that we keep that line of communication open. And so some common areas where we perform professional judgment is, cost of attendance. We already talked about that. But also for loss or change of income, for unusually high medical expenses that aren't reimbursed by insurance, for multiple children in college, now that that isn't being taken into consideration with the federal formula and determining the student aid index and eligibility for aid. So if you're ever in a situation where you're thinking, wow, you're filling out the FAFSA, you're thinking back 2 years and are like, well, my income is going to be drastically less than what the feds are going to be looking at for determining my aid eligibility, definitely contact us. That's something that we'll do everything we can to make sure that you get the most financial aid that you're eligible for. Great question. So Lauren, I'll turn it over to you to talk about CPoS and SOT.
All right, so one of the things that I oversee in our office is what's known as student outcome tracking or course program of study, depending on the situation in which office you're talking to. It goes by both names. So what exactly does that mean? The feds have set down guidance for us that students can only have financial aid for courses that they need to get to graduation. Now, that can be fairly strict in a lot of cases, unfortunately. So I like to start with what can be covered by financial aid rather than what can't be covered by financial aid. Essentially, anything that you need to get to graduation can be covered with financial aid. That includes your general education requirements, your major requirements, any electives you need to get to the 120 requirement, anything like that can be covered. And the things that might fall outside of that are any prerequisites for an outside program. So if you're trying to take a prerequisite for a master's program or an additional program outside of your course program study, maybe you're planning to apply for another program, something like that, that unfortunately cannot be covered. Prerequisites for necessary coursework. So like, let's say that you have to take a math 101 before you get to, the college level you're trying to look for, something like that. That can be covered, but the prerequisite for another program. So the prerequisites to get into additional programs aren't unfortunately going to be able to be covered. Same thing, some jobs require you to have like, so many credits of this kind of coursework or this many credits of this other coursework, something like that. That can't be taken into consideration. It is only what you need to get to graduation. Now, another major sticking point is going to be minors. The feds have dictated that minors are not considered to be full programs of study. That's something that we've double checked with them, and they unfortunately have said that is the case. That is their stance, and that's unfortunately something that we have to enforce. So that does not mean you can't take any minor courses, just that you kind of have to plan out how you're intending to take those minor courses. So if you need elective slots to get you to your 120, all majors have certain number of electives that they need to get you to the minimum number of credits you need for graduation. Any elective slots can be filled with minor courses. Another important thing to keep in mind is that in terms of financial aid, 12 credits is 12 credits. You are full-time. If you are in 12 aid eligible credits, you will not see any changes to your aid if you then add a minor course or two on top of that to get you finished up those last few courses. Another thing to keep in mind is just to make sure you're sort of planning where you're trying to go with that minor. So if you are thinking you're going to add one, talk to your advisor, make sure you have enough time to get those credits in, and hopefully we can help you with the financial aid aspect to make sure all of those get covered from there. And then those are at the federal side. The state side follows slightly different rules depending on the situation, but generally speaking, we kind of get them updated. Now, the only other thing to keep in mind is that one of the reasons we call this course program of study is because that's the program that determines in our banner side if a course is needed or not on our like the technology side. It is unfortunately not always correct, and it doesn't always take into correct things like, prerequisites or something like that is needed. So sometimes you will find yourself in a situation where you do need a course, but for some reason you're getting a notification that it's aid ineligible. In those instances, we just need an advisor to email me specifically and let me know what requirement those courses meet. I can get it updated from there, and we can go from there and try and get you your aid. I just need an advisor to notify me on what requirements those meet. Like I said, they can email me specifically. I just need to know, like I said, which requirement it is meeting on the major side of everything. And then if you are falling into this category, you're also going to get an email from me, and you're also going to get a notification at the time of registration.
So I'm just going to add a little something to what Lauren said, where she said, excuse me, where 12 hours, that's what they're worrying about, is 12 hours. Same thing goes with billing. So if you're taking 15 credit hours worth of classes, we are only charging you for 12 credit hours. So I always encourage students to take your extra classes in fall and spring because we're not charging you any more money. So we're only charging you for 12 credit hours. That being said, if you're taking 15 or 18 hours, then that's more classes that the state can look at as maybe aid eligible. So for the state, you can't repeat passing classes if they've already paid for that class that you passed, meaning a D or better. But if you fail it, you can obviously replace it and the state will pay for it. One of the things the state does differently than the feds when it comes to student outcome tracking or course program of study is, as long as you're taking at least one class that is towards your major, we can give you the state aid. Now, one of the things that our office will look at, if you're taking Excelsior and you're in your last semester and you're going to graduate, you have to always be full-time with Excelsior, but maybe you're not going to meet that 30 credit that's required for that year. That's okay, as long as you're graduating. Right. TAP is 8 semesters of TAP. Excelsior is the same way. Excelsior does not allow for a break in attendance unless you have a medical reason or some extenuating circumstance that kept you from going to school for a semester. So it's always document, document, document. Same thing with TAP, but they have a few more allowances. But so if you find yourself in a situation where it looks like you don't see, look at your bill when we send it to you. I know that bill. So look at your bill. If you know you're getting TAP and Pell and loans and you don't see them, call financial aid, call student accounts. Hey, I don't see my aid here. What happened? Or if you're getting a full Pell and what is that, $36.98, and you only see, let's say, $2,000 of that, call and ask questions. That's why it's so important for students to ask questions and get help. The worst thing you can do is not try to get help when you don't understand something, because if you don't let us know something's going on, we can't help you. You have a question? Go ahead, Connor.
Is the Pell Grant also only 8 semesters, or is that?
No.
You can get
Okay.
12 semesters of Pell.
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah.
And the percentage that you use each semester is prorated if you go part-time. So,
Okay.
But it is only for undergrads.
yes, only for undergraduate students. Yep.
Yeah.
So once you get your bachelor's degree, if you come back for a second bachelor's, you're not eligible. You're also not eligible as a graduate student. And
So again, I can't say enough. We care about you. We care about you doing well and getting your bills and everything taken care of. But you got to call us and let us know you need us. Okay? Because we really, we've been doing this for a long time. We really do know what we're doing. And surprisingly enough, we do. And, but we do this all day. So come on over, come to our offices. We're in 408 Culkin Hall, student accounts is, and financial aids in 231 Sheldon. Give us a call, make sure you're going to the right office first. But both of our offices, even if financial aid, you have questions about your bill, as long as they're not too specific or whatever, financial aid does a great job of, answering those to keep you from having to go across campus and do all that. So
we do have continuing student scholarships that are funded by our alumni office on campus. The deadlines are coming up really fast. So the deadlines for most of those scholarships are February 5th. So if you're interested in applying for those scholarships, definitely get onto their website, do your general application that requires the personal statement, and then their platform will match you up with any scholarships that it appears that you will be eligible for outside of the general app. Apply for everything. I mean, any dollar that you receive in grant or scholarship money is a dollar that you don't have to pay out of pocket or take out a loan for.
Jenny, is that for the upcoming semester, or is that start fall when you say the deadline is February 5th?
So February 5th for the 2025-2026 academic year.
Okay.
So fall 2025.
Wow, that is a lot of information in a very short time. So thank you very much. And I learn something new every single time that I do this with you all. And Lauren, I know that it's been a huge question among my students and everything. Well, how do I know that it's, fundable, things like that? I know when I've been working with my students, and when you register, like everything goes kind of down into the bottom right-hand corner, there's like a little button that says something like check eligibility or something like that. I think a lot of students tend to overlook that. Is that what they would click on to make sure that it pops up and tells you whether it's going to be fundable or not?
Yeah, so when you register for your classes, there's like a button down at the bottom that'll say aid ineligible or aid eligible. So that tells them right at the start of time of registration if the classes are aid eligible or not. They can also see that online on their My Oswego accounts, and they also get a communication from our office as well, letting them know they have these some classes that are showing as aid ineligible.
Okay, great. And then if they get that email or they see that, they should talk with you and or their advisor and kind of figure that out, and then working.
So generally speaking, I tend to send them to their advisor because they're the ones that are going to have to determine if those classes are needed to get them to graduation. And if it is something, like I said, our software is unfortunately not perfect, so it might be a situation where they do need it. So that's when the advisor just needs to look, it needs to send me the email. But a lot of times the advisor can let them know one way or the other if it's going to be needed or not. So I tend to send them over there, but if they want to discuss it with me first, I'm more than happy to have that discussion with them as well.
Okay. And I know I've had my students, you've adjusted their accounts when it's been something like that, and it doesn't necessarily change what they're seeing in their degree works or on the registration page. Your part of it is all kind of behind the scenes.
Yes, so I always try and make sure that I CC the students when I respond back to emails from advisors. Once you've got the confirmation from me that your account is set, then you are all set to go. I've made the updates and everything like that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
And since you're still recording, just for the students that are going to listen to this too, I just want to say, you know, registration will come up here in fall term. So it really is important that you get with us and get these bills taken care of so that you don't have a hold that's going to prohibit you from registering for a future semester. So the sooner you get to it, the less stress you're going to have. Each case is going to be, I will tell you this, each student will be looked at individually.
Okay.
We are not doing a blanket, oh, if you do this, you're going to get this. If you, because there's situations where a student could owe $500 and that could be really, really hard. And we need to do a lot of work to get them to pay that. And it could just be, I'll be honest with you, there are some people who just don't pay until we tell them they have to. So
yeah,
that's what that hold is for.
It's a case by case basis, more
case
to
by
get
case.
there. Yep. That makes sense.
Case by case.
That makes sense.
And we did a lot of that from fall to spring. So that's why it's important to call our offices, work with our offices. Financial aid was so crazy busy. At the end, we still were registering people the week before. Please don't wait till the week before the semester starts. You could have so much less stress and everything. And quite frankly, so could we. If we weren't waiting until right before the semester starts to get your stuff taken care of. They really want you to register ahead of time. And the reason being is you want to get in those classes because you could end up in a situation where that you're just picking a class and then it's not aid eligible, right? Because you didn't make sure that you were able to get in your classes at the dates that the registrar's office has assigned for you. That's why they go through that whole process, is to get you, you know, if you're a senior, you want first dibs on any class that you need to graduate. And if you don't take advantage of that, it could, you know, stop you. So, you know, it's really important. So for those of you listening out there, it's just important to, you know, contact our offices and make sure you're all set.
Absolutely. Great advice from all of you. Great.
Thank you. Thank you all very much for this meeting. I was very happy to see that this meeting was happening.
Thanks for attending. Yeah, and thanks for having good questions too.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
My pleasure.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much for attending, Connor and Cece, and we will be sending this